After conducting the first experiment, significant problems were discussed regarding the effectiveness at truly proving the results of compliance because of the familiarity of the subject with the experimenter. Did the subjects comply with the second larger request because of the foot in the door phenomenon, or was it because of their familiarity with the experimenter? In order to answer this question, a second experiment was conducted with the same basic premise, methods, and procedures as the first. However, a change was instituted that instead of one experimenter, two were used who were unaware of the subject's agreement or refusal of the first smaller request. In this way, Friedman and Fraser hoped to demonstrate that subjects were more apt to comply with a large request after agreeing to a small request first, regardless of any personal, psychological, or relational influence. The second experiment looked a lot like the first one in that subjects were asked first a small request followed by a larger request. Specifically, we will look at the procedure. 1. A set of subjects who were the experimental group were asked to put a small sign in their front lawn. This was the small request. A second set of subjects, the control group or control condition, were asked only the large request. The large request was putting a very large obtrusive sign in their front lawn. The sign said either "Keep California Beautiful" or "Drive Carefully," accompanied with a petition. So the first small request was putting a small sign on the front lawn and signing a petition. The large request was putting a very large obtrusive sign on the front lawn. One set of subjects was asked both requests, and one set of subjects was asked only the second larger request. Now we'll look at the method. First, the subjects were 114 women and 13 men, still living in Palo Alto, California. They were selected randomly, presumably from a phone book. The article didn't state exactly how they were selected. Of these subjects, 9 women and 6 men could not be contacted, so they were not included in the results of the study. As I stated, the difference in this experiment was that it utilized 2 experimenters, 1 female and 1 male. So that was a significant change from the first experiment. And included in that is that a different experimenter always made the second contact. So whoever made the first contact, the other experimenter would make the second. There were actually 4 conditions, 4 subject groups. They were present, 3 of which were the same as the first experiment. An additional condition was instituted where the first request had absolutely nothing to do with the second larger request. So the first request would have been signing a petition. The second would have been putting a large sign on your lawn. So it was a little bit different there. Unlike the first experiment, the experimenters actually went to the homes to contact the subjects. So the first experiment was done over the phone. In this experiment, in the second one, the experimenters went to the homes, had face-to-face interviews with the subjects. Neighborhoods were chosen which were closely grouped together, and every third or fourth house on each block was approached, and every house on that block was in the same group. They did this, well, because they had to walk door to door in order to do the study, so a lot of it was just logistical, keeping a tight area, cutting down on time. So they tried to pick neighborhoods that had a bunch of houses, and then every third or fourth house, depending who was home, on each block was approached. And every house that they approached on each block was in the same condition group. So that was the way they organized their subjects and kept track of what happened there. Second contact for the large request was made about 2 weeks after the initial contact. So it was about a week and a half, 2 week waiting period after the first contact was made, or in the case of the control group, that would have been the first contact. The second experimenter was given a list of houses, names of all 4 conditions compiled by the other experimenter. So whoever approached for the second contact had what houses to approach, but they did not know what condition the house was in, and they did not know their response to the first request. For the large request, the experimenter asked every subject if they would put a large "Keep California Beautiful" sign on their lawn for 1 to 1.5 weeks, and they were shown a picture of it in front of a nice home. So they were shown what it would look like in front of their house, and they were asked to keep it on their lawn for 1 to 1.5 weeks. And that was considered the large request. It was a very large, obtrusive sign. If the subject agreed, they were told that the organization was simply gathering more names than necessary, and they would be contacted if their assistance was needed. So after this second contact, if the subject did agree to put the sign up, they didn't actually put a sign up for the experiment. They were just told that the organization was gathering more names than necessary. They'd be contacted if their assistance was needed. So they didn't actually have to do the work of putting up the sign. They were simply measuring people's response to the request. This effectively terminated the experiment after receiving that information, and was the final question. So we're going to take a look at what the results of this experiment versus the first one were here, and Nancy will take you through that, and we invite you to start the next section of the presentation. Thank you.